These days, why dialogue supervisors are necessary is just with shrinking budgets and schedules, a lot of times the dialogue cut gets split up between multiple editors. So after everybody's done, somebody like me is important to compile everything and make sure everything matches, the organization matches, so that the mixer isn't doing a lot of extra work during the mix. Well, dialogue editing is complicated to say the least, but on paper, in the simplest terms, it's really just cleaning out all the production audio, making sure that transitions between different takes and different microphones is smooth so that you don't hear the picture edit. And then also finding alternate takes if needed, if the actor or actress flubs a word, and just removing background noise or mouth clicks and that sort of thing. As a dialogue editor, I'm trying to preserve as much production audio as possible to not need ADR, whereas the ADR person's generally looking for technical issues of any kind and kind of over cueing, and then those cues kind of get pared down per the director of the movie. So where ADR comes in is sometimes it's just an option to do a different performance, or if production audio can't be salvaged, we'll do ADR there. So part of my job as a dialogue editor is knowing what the ADR cues are, and so I can prepare for that. Because otherwise, if we just pop in ADR and take out the production, then you'll hear that drop out in background tone and all that. So part of what I do is I find or build solid air fill to put in there and to compensate for the fact that there won't be production audio in those spots. So typically the first thing that we'll receive is an OMF from the picture editor, and a lot of times too, especially with feature films, we'll also receive all the dailies audio, so all the production audio. So part of my job is going through the OMF, and what we usually do is we split it out so it's organized for each of the different editors. And what I mean by that is we'll take all the production audio and put that on its own tracks. All the effects that the picture editor had spotted in that are library sounds will put on their own tracks, and all the music on music tracks. Now with the dailies audio, that's a whole different animal because at that point we've got to try to use edit decision lists sent from the picture editor and try to basically build Pro Tools sessions that link to the original production audio. And the reason we do that is because a lot of times the OMFs only have the mix channel or whatever mic the picture editor thought was best. And sometimes that works, but obviously as audio guys, we want to have access to as much material as possible. So when we do those dialogue assemblies from the dailies audio, that gives us Pro Tools sessions with the audio that matches the picture editor's cut, but all the microphones for each take. So once we have the OMF ready and the dialogue assembly ready, typically as a dialogue editor, my first step is to just sort of take a really quick pass at each reel of picture and just go through and pick out which microphone I think will work best. And some things I'm taking into consideration are obviously the tone of the voice, the amount of background tone, and then also how things will match. Because while dialogue editing, one of the most important things is consistency. Sometimes that trumps the overall quality of the sound, because if things are consistent, global changes can be made to clean up the audio, and that saves us a lot of time. After that, typically I'll do a finer pass. Now I'm starting to smooth things out, fade things together, take out obvious clunks and mouth noises. And typically I'll do another 2 passes or so, doing finer and finer details at a time. And the reason I do that is with dialogue editing, there are so many things you can fix. I mean, really, I think if I had an infinite amount of time, I would never stop fixing the dialogue, because you can always make it cleaner. And so I take several passes at it because if you listen to the same thing over and over again, it's just going to start to sound good anyways. So taking several passes means that I'm going to be hearing different things every time, and that really helps with the dialogue edit. So while I'm doing that, our ADR guy, Ben, is typically going through and taking dialogue that I've cut already and also kind of looking ahead to find technical issues and building in a list of ADR cues that we're going to have. And so once I get those cues back, I can start to prep for ADR like I had talked about before. And then kind of the last step that I'll do is I'll kind of wait at that point till we've shot all the ADR, and that way I have a definitive list of what's going to be for the mix and what isn't. And then I'll do, in that pass, I'll do just really fine detail stuff, denoising audio, notching out air conditioners and that sort of thing, filling in for ADR and making sure that the ADR is going to fit in well with the production dialogue. Now at this point, I'm not necessarily EQing the ADR to match the production. That's more of a mixer's job. But still, when we record ADR, we use a boom and a lav, and a lot of times, based off of the production audio, I can make decisions about whether I want to use the ADR's boom or the lav based off of the tonality of the production. So after that, I compile all the editor's reels and I make passes at their dialogue to make finer adjustments and put everything together in one session, and at that point it's ready for mix. The most important thing in dialogue editing that's just absolutely critical is organization. Organization and what I mean by that generally is when we get audio, it's labeled by its scene and take generally and what microphone it is, if it's the boom or which lav. And so putting all like scene and takes on the same track along with their microphones and so splitting it out that way. So basically you don't want two different sounding things right next to each other on the same track. And that is way more important than any cleaning you could do, because again, that allows the mixer or the dialogue editor to make general fixes by making wide selections instead of having to zoom in and be really nitpicky. So to do that, generally it's just listening to the tonality of the actor or actress's voice along with the background sound also, and making adjustments there. But really track organization is the most important thing.